And so then with no further ado, Fernando Honig.
Thank you. Uh, thank you all for coming to this presentation. I realized that the title changed, and probably you know that it's going to be a different thing, but it's basically the same. I mean, it's just a title. Again, thank you for coming, and Ethan, thank you for coming. Well, a little introduction about myself. I'm from Argentina, from state in the middle. I'm assistant administrator and working last 8 years in IT companies, basically working Intel IT since 2011. I'm just like the monitoring guy, you know how it is. Basically, you are the monitoring, but you need to do some deployment and build the machines or things like that. So basically, it's a lot of stuff. About the presentation and this, well, you know how the big companies are. We like to talk about the solution, basically how we achieve the solution on the monitoring side for our infrastructure, and say that all products used that are going to be shown in this presentation is basically open source. And basically the agenda will be like the problem that we faced, how we put everything on an external infrastructure distributed, how can you basically build a networking infrastructure in the cloud, and how you can monitor that infrastructure, basically how to build the host groups and how associate services to some specific host group, the event brokers, basically how we can export data that Nagios is generating every time, and how to see in the dashboards. And I will present like live demo during this presentation, so I will be stopping at some time, start the creation of the infrastructure, and at the end, you will see how it works, basically. The proposed summary about why we're doing this is basically to provide agility and rapid cycle of development, because as I was saying, I'm in Argentina. We have a design center, software design center for Intel, and we're just providing support to software teams. The idea is to provide zero human interaction related to infrastructure setup in order to bring the infrastructure up and down while when the development team needs, basically on the environment that they build. And the objective of the business objective is just trying to reduce at least 50% the operative cost of fixed infrastructure, basically enable multi-geo applications, and ensure 99.99% of availability, basically under this infrastructure. Why do we need a distributed infrastructure? Basically because we have on different regions, some of them are in US East, some of them in US West, some of them in Europe or Asia. Basically that's because we need a distributed infrastructure. We execute checks every 1 or 5 minutes depending on some specific need, basically having redundancy and fast recovery for our monitoring system. On the centralized dashboard is because you have 2 eyes and you can see like 10 monitors at a time. So basically what we're doing is having a central dashboard where you can see all your hosts and services at the same place. The idea is also have a fast and simple services and commands and host view, and get an automatic reporting for SLA metrics. Okay, I will stop a little bit here to start the automation. I will show it. Basically, it's a Linux box, and I will execute like a bash script that basically will start creating, add, to 05 UTC today, okay? Basically, this is going to create the whole infrastructure, meaning the VPC on both regions, and then we're going to create a NAT servers for outgoing communication and a VPN tunnel between them. Let me go back to the presentation. So the infrastructure capabilities of this infrastructure is basically a solid network architecture, VPN multi-geo, secure connection with IPsec between those two places, automated monitoring, basically create the whole Nagios with scripts, and centralized logging for application services. The components is basically a virtual cloud. We have firewall rules and public and private subnets for the services. Basically, I will show you in a diagram later. Load balancers and a DNS failover in order to automate all the deployment for ensure the 99.99% of availability. This is how it looks at the first time. Basically, you have two regions, one on west, one on east, and you have a public subnet for each region. We're putting a elastic network interface that will have an elastic IP that will communicate between both regions. And you have an internet gateway in order to all the instances that are here can go out to internet. The VPN tunnels, well, it's going to be created in the background. So this is how it looks with the tunnel. As I said, you have the elastic network interface attached to a NAT instance. And with Nagios, what we're doing is monitoring that the tunnel is up between regions. And when we discover that the VPN connection is down, basically we are moving this elastic network interface from this instance to this one, and the same on the other region. Basically, that allow us to have the tunnel all the time up, basically. We call floating any. Basically, it's a floating network interface and can be attached to an instance with a specific private IP address and a public IP address. Basically, the public IP address is the one that we use to connect regions, because right now Amazon is not supporting a VPN tunnel between regions. So what we're doing is we have a route table, and we put all private subnets to route traffic over that elastic network interface. So as I was saying before, is if we have a problem on a specific instance, basically what we're doing is moving the network interface from one NAT instance to the other, so we don't need to change anything on the subnet routing. Well, as I said, in case of an instance failure, basically we are detaching the network interface from one instance and moving to the other. And basically, downtime, I put less than 5 minutes. Basically, we are executing the check every 1 minute, so you will have like 1 minute downtime, then like 35, 40 seconds between the network interfaces moving from one side to the other, and then like 20 seconds to the subnets are getting the new instance on the network interface. This is like the final view of the infrastructure. Basically, we have the tunnel here. We have the monitoring and the dashboard on one side, and the same thing on the other side. The good thing is this monitoring is checking this, let's say, private subnet with a specific WS and database servers. And this monitoring is doing the same on the other region. But this dashboard is having this information of the monitoring And also the same thing with here. So basically, if you log into this dashboard or to this one, you're getting the whole monitoring instances or instances of the infrastructure in a specific dashboard. So basically, what you can do is put a VIP address that points to the dashboard, and it's the same basically. How it works, all these automation. Basically, we are using a bash script in order to do all the orchestration of the systems, in order to create the VPC, the public subnets, the monitoring, and the private ones for the services. We are using CloudFormation for all the AWS resources. Basically, in this example, as you can see here, we are creating a VPC, a public subnet, an internet gateway, as I shown before. And then we have on the bash script, basically a create VPC, and basically we are creating a stack that is being called VPC-based stack in some specific region, and using some template that with bash, we are sending the parameters in order to use one single file for different regions, basically setting the region here and the subnet for that specific VPC. Basically, the action is like create, delete, update, or something like that. And that it's very helpful in order to not start touching a lot of files whenever you need to update, for example, I don't know, maybe a firewall rule or some specific port open or things like that. On the user data that you have on the CloudFormation, you can specify basically bash or PowerShell for Windows instances. In this case, this is an example of a NAT instance that we are configuring, basically putting a IP-tables rule for allowing outgoing connection with Masquerade. Basically, this is for connecting to the other region. So this is the idea of using CloudFormation with AWS CLI. And all of that is basically orchestrated with a bash script that we are using from a specific instance, as I shown before, like a Linux box, wherever you have, and just execute it. No need to be on Amazon, no need to be on some specific VPC, just if you can reach internet, you can create everything. The monitoring. Basically, the monitoring is a distributed one from different places. In this case, this picture tried to show that you can have disaggregated monitoring systems all over the world, and then you can see everything on one single dashboard. The problem that we face is, how can I touch or create or modify a service in one Nagios, and that needs to be like replicated to the other ones? Basically, I don't want to start creating one file, then copy with, I don't know, SCP or FTP or whatever to all the Nagios that I have on different regions. So what we did was created a centralized location where we are putting all our files and scripts, basically libexec folder and the etc folder. So every time I have to create a host group or services file, I just upload to here, and then I'm just with cron job getting data from that centralized location. For this cloud monitoring architecture, what I'm using, it's different tools like mclive status. Basically, mclive status is a broker basically opens a socket and allows you to send and receive requests from a dashboard or whatever. The good thing is this is basically used by Nagios also, so you can just create your mClive status installation on the monitoring node, and then you can get data from Nagios or another dashboard, as we are going to show. The other tool is RESTLOS. RESTLOS is basically an API that is being used to create and remove nodes from Nagios. It's a REST API, so you can send create this node with this JSON file, and basically it's open source. So the other thing that I'm using here is iWatch in order to not need to log into each Nagios box in order to reload or restart Nagios process. So basically what I'm using iWatch is to, whenever a file is modified on the etc or libexec folder, I'm just executing an action that could be reload or restart. And the good thing is can watch directory recursively. So I just put a /etc. So if you change a host, if you add a host, or if you change a host, or if you add a service or a host group, basically it's being reloaded and automatically. The other thing that we are using for monitoring applications, it's a web inject. Web inject, it's like a curl wrapper, and we use that for execute REST calls to the services, or also can be used to SOAP applications. So basically it's used to do that. So this is basically the integration that we are doing. We have a Nagios server with an mClive broker, RESTLOS, the plugins, a web inject, and iWatch, and basically this is the utilization that we're doing for each component. And well, basically the Nagios is checking all the application servers that we have on different private subnets on this infrastructure. The automatic monitoring is being done by the user data that I shown before. When you are creating the instance or when you are restarting the instance, basically you use a curl command in order to send a post to the RESTLOS interface when the server is starting. As we know that the cloud scaling is like starting and then going down automatically, we don't want to have host on down state just giving us warnings or critical every time. So basically we put a delete action when the instance is shutting down. And we set up the host type in order to build the host group things. And we're adding the tools for monitoring like SNMP and NRPE when the instance is launching. This is basically the addition of when we are adding the RESTLOS call. Basically, we are passing the monit instance IP that is being used for that instance in particular. And we are adding this line to our /etc/rc.local. So every time the instance is starting, we will we'll be adding this machine. The machine basically it has a file, it's /etc/host monitor. This file is basically a generic file that we are downloading from that centralized location. And what we do is just replacing the host name and the host groups that are going to be associated with this instance. So this is basically the REST call that we are sending to the RESTLOS tool. And when we are deleting this instance, basically we put on /etc/rc0.d. Basically, this is the init 0 of the instance we're running on Ubuntu. So what we do is create a K99 host monitor script that is going to execute a curl delete with the same monit instance IP here. And well, basically, this is the call. We are giving the host name, and then we are replacing that in the generic file that we downloaded before. So this is the picture of what's happening when we are adding new nodes and when we are removing nodes. Basically, we are sending Nagios curl calls, basically to add or remove the instances for the monitoring system. So the iWatch thing is basically for adding or removing hosts. We are basically using the central repository for backup. So every time the host is added, automatically that file is being uploaded to a centralized repository. And when a server is shutting down, we are removing that file from the monitoring system and also from the centralized repository. For new services, as I told before, it's basically the idea to create a service, upload to the centralized repository, and then automatically we'll download that new service to the Nagios, and we'll reload the Nagios service. For new host groups or service groups, it's basically the same, and for new contacts. Host groups. Basically, what we are using is in order to like put all the hosts from a specific type all together. We are saying, okay, we have Linux servers and Windows servers. Okay, what kind of services or checks needs to be added to a specific kind of instance? Basically, that's a host group. It's a way to associate services to a specific kind of instance. Let's say databases, W servers, or in this case, the big difference is like Linux and Windows. So when you create the host, basically you define all the host groups that are going to be associated with this specific host, and that's the idea of like putting all the hosts in a certain group. As you can see here, basically we have on the Nagios UI, you can see some specific servers like, I don't know, Bastion or Apache or Hadoop or Linux servers. And well, you can see here that you have that 249 here. That is the same that we have here, basically, because when I created this 249 host, I put these two host groups associated with. This is how we associate services for a specific host group. Let's say SSH. Okay, we're going to use this command that is check SSH, basically at check TCP on port 22. And we're going to use this service associated with this host group is Linux servers only. But if we go to ping, okay, I will need to use the same thing for Linux servers and Windows servers, because I'm going to check ping for all our hosts that we have. Then we have like the CPU on Linux. Well, I'll use a different command than in Windows, and same thing for memory. So basically, that's the idea of how to associate services to a specific host group. And the whole picture will be like this map. Basically, you have one host group that is, let's say, Linux DNS. So you have two nodes associated with, and you have three checks associated with this DNS, Linux DNS host group. but for example, you can have, I don't know, maybe this host group that's Linux. Well, I don't read it, but let's say Linux. and I have this node that also has another host group associated, this Linux type of 3W. So basically, it's the relation that you can have on this. So basically, this node will have all these services and also this one. Okay. Get Nagios data from anywhere. Basically, this is the way that we can see all the monitoring systems in one place. We are using Thruk for that, and Thruk is an aggregation dashboard that you can put all your Nagios servers with MKLive, and it has another other brokers. I've been using MKLive, and basically it allows you to see your in a rapid view all the nodes that you have in a bad shape, services, and also you can see the site. Basically, it's the Nagios that you have associated with, and you can see in a pie all your services status, all your host status, and in a table. And then you have like the mind map. It's basically showing you all the services that you have with problems on all the hosts associated with that problems. Here you can see that we have 11 Nagios up. This is the way that you can filter all your host basically on doing some and or searches. This is another view. Basically, this is the report or metrics that you can get every, I don't know, let's say daily or weekly or whatever. So you are just selecting the backends that you want to analyze, also the host groups, and setting like the SLA for this, and the well, basically the decimal points and things like that. So you will receive a report saying, hey, this host group is having like 99.98, and if let's say that your SLA is 99.99, so it will show you that you're below your specified SLA. And this is how this all the Nagios are being shown on this interface. So you can just select or unselect a specific one in order to not show all the nodes associated with that Nagios instance. And the view is basically the same as the Nagios interface. It's just showing you the host, all the services associated, status, last check, the temp, and the output of the check. The SLA, as I've been talking before, is basically an overview of all your hosts that you have for this host group. For a specific host, you can see also the availability, let's say the uptime, downtime, or wherever. And well, this is basically the top of the main screen of the report, saying that this is the report time period and the host group that you have selected. Okay. I will see if the demo is done. If not, we can go over the QA. So let me check. Well, basically, it is the VPS, the VPC is done, it's being created. The NAT instances were created on the VPN connection too. The monitoring instances on both sides were created, and the same thing with the dashboard. I'm just waiting for DNS propagation because, well, you know that whenever you create a new DNS, it needs a little bit time. So until that's done, we can start with QA. It's going to take like 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
So do we have any questions? Somebody's got to have something. Hey, Seamus, you bailed me out.
So what was one of the biggest challenges that you ran into as you were configuring all of this and setting it up?
Well, right now we have a problem. Basically, the problem is that we need a simple way to edit the host group for a specific instance. Let's say if you create an instance within a specific host group and that is being on the monitoring system, what if let's say some really dummy, but let's say you have a MySQL server and you need to change to a MongoDB server, that specific instance, how do you do? Basically, there are two ways. One way is destroying the instance and recreate with another parameter when you're starting the instance, basically setting, okay, you're not going to be a MySQL, you're going to be a MongoDB server. So that instance is going to be created as a MongoDB server on the monitoring system. The other way is I don't want to remove the instance or shut down that instance, so I just want to edit on the monitoring system, so I need to change on the host definition that host is not going to be MySQL, it's going to be a MongoDB. Basically, we're trying to see, well, with the Nagios config manager, or the name I think is like that, we're seeing if we can use that to have like one centralized place where we can just click, 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 and change for a specific host, the host groups associated with. So that's my biggest problem. For creating this, well, a lot of time, a lot of dry run. Basically, it's our life. It's all new. It's a comma or some specific point that you put wrong, everything is ruined. So basically, it's creating again, and let's do it. So basically, that's the way.
Version of Nagios are you guys using?
3.5. We're going to change for maybe 4.0.
Are you going to go up to XI?
We're analyzing that too. Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to figure it out if we can just change all the dashboard for XI, but we need to think about it. We're not defined that yet.
Did you consider using a configuration management tool like Chef or Puppet along with CloudFormation to
yes, in
orchestrate?
In fact, we are probably going to use a Chef in order to, this was like the first stage. Probably in the next month, we're going to use a Chef in order to ensure, but that's another problem because sometimes, let's say network is not good. So when you're sending the curl to the Nagios instance, it failed. I don't know why, but it failed. So that instance is not going to be monitored because at the first time that you send the curl call, it failed. So we are going to use Chef in order to ensure that if this instance is up, this file needs to be in the monitoring system. If not, retry until the file is here. So basically, that's the idea of using Chef for all the monitoring orchestration. Okay. Basically, this is done. I have the URLs over here. So what I will show you is basically the Through interface. Click. Let's say well, this is basically the Through interface with we have two Nagios, east and west, and we have all 4 nodes here, basically 2 Nagios and 2 dashboards on all services that we have associated with. Let's see, host groups, basically we have Linux servers, Nagios servers, and Nagios servers. So basically, Nagios servers are the Thrug ones. So this is the checks on the services. Let me check on services. So, for example, for the Nagios ones, we have the Nagios URL health and the mklive status for this node. And for the Nagios one, we have the mklive running and the Thrug URL health, basically. So this is the Thrug on east. And as I said, what is the mouse? Here is. Okay. And basically, this is the same thing on the other side, and you will see that it has the same amount of servers and services. So if you put a VIP address pointing to our DNS, A address or CNAME pointing to these two, you will be seeing the same thing, but on different coasts. Okay. Well, you can see that this was created 10 minutes ago, so I'm not lying. Okay. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Do we have any other questions?
Wherever is just, if you have any doubt or something, just.
Were there any other dashboards that you all looked at and considered for this?
Well, as I said, this is our first stage. We just put this one. We have Nagios too, but it's basically for other purposes. Basically, let's see Nagios that is being installed also here. Let's say Nagios. At the same time, we install Nagios and Thrug. So basically, you have here the Nagios, and this is basically a map, an auto map for your two instances. It's not very good size to show it, but basically, it's we are just analyzing dashboards. Thrug was one that fit very well for us, so. I think maybe we need to analyze another ones. And as I said before, going to XI could be a good option.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, it's a very short question. The SLA reporting, is that native Thrug or
Yeah.
is it? It is.
Yeah,
okay.
so Thrug, well, let me show it. Basically, you have reports, availability, no. Let me check reporting. Reporting here. You create a new report. Let's say, okay, I want this backend, and I will send it to some specific email every day at, let's say, 5 p.m. For, let's say, it's SLA host for some specific host, or let's say for a SLA host group for some SLA host for some specific host group. Let's say all the Nagios servers. Basically, that's how you're creating your report.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do you have any more?
I have no more.
No, you.
I'm done. I'm done.
I wasn't sure. We did throw the Q&A a little earlier there, so I got
Yeah,
to get
it's
off my normal
it's-
schedule. So Put your hands together for Fernando Honig.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.